Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Sugar and Spice by Phoebe Alexander. And this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1, Sigh. And that's why you are our first choice for going undercover in the park, my father announced, pinning his dark gaze on me. What? I shook my head adamantly. No, I'm going to Greece next month to study sculpture with Christoph Kostopoulos. You can't go to Greece. You just went to Tahiti 2 months ago, my oldest brother Carson piped up from across the table. He turned toward our parents. Cy hasn't done anything to support the business since he got out of college, which has been 2 years now. My middle brother, Clem, was quick to add his 2 cents. It's about time you start pulling your weight around here, Cy. Last time I checked, we're all due to inherit an equal share of Sweet Enterprises. So it's time for you to step up. My mother laid a soft hand on top of mine, forcing my eyes to snap to hers. They're right, Cy. It's time for you to contribute. I know you're the youngest, and we've given you some time to find yourself, or whatever you're calling it these days, but if you want to be part of the family business, you have to do your fair share of the work. Heaving a sigh, I resigned myself to whatever this stupid plan was, but I wasn't done arguing my point just yet. I don't think studying art means I'm not pulling my weight. I couldn't help it if my family didn't understand all of my nerdy passions. Didn't they realize there's a lot more to life than some dumb children's theme park? I wanted more for myself. I had dreams, and they had nothing to do with running my parents' business. My brows arched as I figured out how to sell it to them. Maybe what I'm learning about sculpture can benefit the park in some way. Maybe I'll be able to design a new attraction someday. Carson rolled his eyes so hard at my sales pitch, just witnessing it gave me a headache. My eyes darted between my parents, begging for their blessing. Is there any chance I can wrap this assignment up quickly and still make it to Greece next month? Tell you what, my father leaned toward me with his hands clasped together, index fingers steepled. You infiltrate the employee clique and identify the ringleader threatening to organize a strike, and you'll not only get to Greece on time, but we'll give you a $25,000 bonus. Sound good? Oh, it did sound good. Very good indeed. A small smile curled my lips as the dollar signs sparkled in my mind. It wasn't about the money. I just really wanted to work with Christoph Kostopoulos. Money wasn't everything, but it was the means to an end. And that end was me pursuing my passions. Greece. Here I come. Confession, I'd never had a manual labor type job, and I'd never worn a uniform. Being thrust into this role was giving me real fish out of water vibes, but I was trying to suck it up. All I had to do was identify the trader, clue my parents in, and then I could take the sculpture course in Greece I'd already signed up for. I may have had a reputation for being a partier, but I really did want to learn about sculpture and Greek architecture and just immerse myself in all that beautiful culture for a while. But first, I had a transformation to make. My parents had owned Sweetopia for my entire life, and every summer since I was 16, I'd worked a cushy summer job there, usually in security. My brothers and I would sit high up in the control center at the top of Cotton Candy Castle and monitor all the cameras surveying different areas of the park. Basically, we zoomed in on all the MILFs with spectacular cleavage. Nice work if you can get it. I was particularly mortified to look in the mirror before heading into Sweetopia for my first day as undercover boss. This cheesy pink polo shirt emblazoned with the Sweetopia logo was pretty awful. But even worse, I'd be forced to don a pink and white candy-striped apron to go over the entire ensemble. I looked like a Ken reject in the Barbie bargain bin at the local toy store. No one could know my true identity, obviously. No longer Cyrus Sweet, heir to the billion-dollar Sweetopia empire, I was now a regular seasonal employee in the bakery. The only people who knew about my undercover boss assignment were the ones in the boardroom when the decision was made, my mother, father, and my 2 older brothers. I had to walk from the outer echelons of the employee parking lot into the park. Our family had a fleet of golf carts to carry us around the grounds, but of course I couldn't use one of those. I rolled my eyes at the absurdity of it all as I made the trek from my beat-up Dodge truck — my parents wouldn't let me drive my classic '69 Camaro — toward the huge fuchsia purple and teal arch that read Sweetopia in gigantic curlicue letters. I stopped at the gate with my Sweetopia logo cap pulled down low on my face. My parents insisted I disguise my appearance, so I spent the last week growing some stubble. I also trimmed my shaggy dark hair, and my mom bought me a pair of black plastic-framed glasses with clear lenses. They didn't want anyone to have a single inkling that I was Sweet, but who would ever guess my true identity when I currently looked like a hipster douchebag? Hi, I'm Marcus Young, reporting for duty, I chirped in a British accent, giving the Sweetopia employee at the gate a mock salute. Where the fuck did that accent come from? I'm not British. Ah, shit. Getting through this ordeal without my trademark sarcasm was going to be an Olympic caliber feat. Maybe a British accent would help me be more proper? The gatekeeper, a tall, lanky chap with huge gray-blue eyes, looked down at a clipboard. Got ya, he said, barely glancing up at me. Marcus Young, you're assigned to the Bard's Bakery in the... I know where it is. I tried not to sound like an asshole, but I very much sounded like an asshole. A British one at that. The skinny dude gave me a shrug, and I was on my merry way to the cotton candy castle, the spires of which gleamed silver in the morning sun. I stopped for just a moment to admire the way dawn splashed its golden splendor on the park. I was proud of this place, of my family's legacy. It was one of the top family attractions in the state, and my parents built it from the ground up. But that didn't mean I wanted to devote my whole life to this place when there was a beautiful world out there waiting for me to explore. The Bard's Bakery was just inside the front entrance of the castle, where little girls and their families flocked to see the Red Velvet Queen. There was also a ride inside, one of those boat rides through a tunnel with piped-in music and animatronic characters. This particular ride showed how the Red Velvet Queen and her friend Donut Dragon defeated an evil sorceress to claim the throne of Sweetopia. It was a very empowering story. Hashtag girl power, etc. I was headed straight to the bakery when I remembered that my oldest brother, who was in charge of casting for the park's costumed characters, hired a new Red Velvet Queen a few months ago. The one we'd had for years aged out of the role. My father decided we needed some fresh blood, and the veteran queen was asked to abdicate her throne. Both Carson and Clem agreed the new Red Velvet Queen was hot, and they had notoriously different tastes. This naturally led to my own insatiable curiosity about her appearance. It wouldn't hurt to steal a glance to see if my brother's story could be corroborated. Tiptoeing down the hallway, I realized if any of the other employees caught me back here, I would be in big trouble. I didn't want to make a bad impression on my first day or blow my cover, but curiosity killed the cat and all that. I slowly pushed open the heavy doors that sealed off the Queen's throne room and scanned the long, elegantly appointed chamber for... My eyes landed right on the gold throne. There, regally perched in the center of the plush crimson cushion, was the most beautiful, elegant, royal creature I had ever seen in my life. Glossy black hair and big, sumptuous curls cascaded around her ivory shoulders, and lush, creamy décolletage spilled out the top of her red velvet corseted dress. She had the most exquisite, full red lips with a distinctive cupid's bow. Her nose, cheekbones, and graceful neck were sculpted by a master artist. And most entrancing of all were the glittering gemstones gazing at me from behind thick, dark lashes. Her perfectly groomed eyebrows shot up as soon as she saw me. "Oh, sorry, wrong room!" I called out in that blasted British accent and went flying back through the doors as though I'd just seen a ghost. Okay, maybe not a ghost, but she definitely had to be a mythical creature of some sort. I'd never been startled or even slightly taken aback by a woman's beauty before. There was a first time for everything, but I was simply in awe. Maybe it was just the costume, but I'd never seen anyone or anything quite like her. Clem and Carson both claimed she was hot, but they failed to mention she was truly a goddess. Despite my lowly undercover stature as a seasonal bakery cashier, I would find a way to make her acquaintance. The sooner, the better. No, screw waiting. I wasn't a waiting around kind of guy. I'd go talk to her right the fuck now. Jolie. The guy who just came in here has a British accent. Where the hell are they getting these temp employees? Apparently hiring American doesn't mean anything to the Sweets. My internal rant concluded, I erased any lingering thoughts about the rude interruption and tried to look regal as my colleagues fixed the red velvet curtains around my throne area and adjusted the lighting so it pierced straight into my retinas. I was usually half blind by the end of the workday, and I couldn't even get vision insurance. "You all ready, Jolie?" The throne room manager reached up to brush a stray hair out of my eye. "Our guests will be here any minute." I nodded, affixing a royal smile to my face. I'd been warming up my wrists to perform my queenly wave approximately 5 zillion times throughout the course of the day. The hundreds of little girls, and a few little boys, don't want to leave them out, who made my throne room their first stop of the day in Sweetopia were the real diehard fans. They'd read all the books, seen all the cartoons, they probably owned a Red Velvet Queen doll or two, and a lot of the girls showed up wearing their own Red Velvet Queen dresses. It was an adorable sight seeing them all lined up out the throne room door. They were always so excited to meet me, and I wanted to be everything they had imagined I would be. I only got the part of the Red Velvet Queen because I looked good in a corset, had a pretty face, and the little kids weren't scared of me. But trust me, I'm no queen. I was all set to greet my subjects when I noticed the British guy pushing through the red velvet curtains again. What is this dude's problem? He gave me a sheepish smile, and I noticed he was cute in a quirky sort of way, with the beginnings of a beard and black plastic-rimmed glasses. He had that sort of hair that always looked a little tousled, long on top and like he'd been running his fingers through it all morning. And he looked younger than me, maybe mid-20s. I sort of wanted to hear his accent again, but he appeared to be waiting for me to speak. Yes, I hoped I could put him at ease. He was obviously new around here and probably a bit disoriented. This place could be overwhelming at first. I remembered my Sweetopia employee orientation all too well. Or perhaps I should call it my indoctrination. He approached with his hand outstretched. Good morning, I just wanted to introduce myself. He kept walking and talking, but when he reached me, he just stood there awkwardly with his hand sticking out, looking boyish and adorably nervous at the same time. That accent sure does funny things to the area of the V of this corset points toward. I shook off that thought before taking his hand into mine. Otherwise, I didn't think he'd ever work up the courage to touch me. His eyes were glued to mine. He had absolutely no shyness when it came to eye contact. His eyes were so deep and brown, I was afraid of getting lost in them, so I quickly averted my gaze to his lips. Nope, that's a landmine too. His mouth was outlined in manly scruff and looked so damn kissable that I once again moved my focus, willing my eyes to land someplace that would allow me to keep my cool. The Sweetopia logo on his pink polo shirt. Ah, yes, Sweetopia. Nothing was more effective at dousing the flames of desire than the thought of the fucking sweets and their fucking lame-ass evil corporate empire. Well, are you going to tell me your name? I prompted him, getting into character as the kind, benevolent, but thoroughly kick-ass Red Velvet Queen. He straightened up immediately, though he maintained a firm masculine grip on my hand. Yes, Your Majesty, I'm Marcus Young. His now confident grin never faltered. You may find me at the Bard's Bakery if you should ever require my services. Its services? And what might those be? Stop! I commanded my wayward imagination. Then he raised my hand to his mouth and pressed those beautiful plump lips against my skin, making my insides turn to goo. It's a pleasure to meet you, Marcus. I gave him my most regal nod of approval while on the inside was busy stamping down all the flames incited by the combination of his looks, accent, and the feel of his lips on my skin. If I could get my stupid body to calm the fuck down, I could focus on how nice it would be to have a polite, handsome gentleman over at the bakery. I couldn't visit during work hours, of course. What queen visited a bakery when there were servants to deliver anything she could possibly desire? But I already had a habit of stopping in before I got into costume and makeup. Even queens needed their coffee fix, after all. Oh, where are my manners? I'm the Red Velvet Queen, I announced in my royal voice, trying to stay in character. It was only seconds before the ropes dropped and my fangirls and boys came squealing into the throne room. I assure you, Your Highness, pleasure is all mine.